Gentlemen, time for our daily press review, and of course all the headlines of the major newspapers around the world focused on the US presidential elections and the results that will be announced in a very short while. And on this issue we have with us Mr. Mohamed Sheta, media expert. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us.
Very beautiful good morning to you and to all you Nile TV viewers.
Sir, how do you follow up? Right, and of course I received the news now that the US ambassador in Cairo have announced Donald Trump, the Republican nominee, to be the US president. How do you see this, sir, and how do you comment on these breaking news, of course?
Well, actually, I think the result was quite unexpected. All the think tanks and all the polls and even the social media trends were more or less suggesting that Hillary Clinton was in favor of winning the presidential election, and now with all and this also resulted in the turbulences we've seen in all the international markets, in Mexico and the Asian markets, in the United States as well. So it's quite a surprising.
It's usually the U.S. elections very surprising, with a lot of surprises, and of course all speculations and all analysts were putting Hillary Clinton as on top of Donald Trump to be the coming president of the United States. Why do you think all the speculations were turning more towards Hillary Clinton?
Well, I think we are witnessing a so-called second Brexit. Most of the young people voted for Hillary Clinton, just like in the United Kingdom, most of the young people voted for the United Kingdom to stay in the EU, and all the elder voters voted for Trump. So this was one of the main reasons, probably, why Donald Trump succeeded in surpassing Hillary Clinton. In addition to that, the fact that the problems and the scandal, the email scandal of Hillary Clinton during the past couple of days definitely also had an effect on it.
Using her private email during her term in office, I think, as a U.S. Secretary of State.
Exactly, and lots of people also, lots of so-called political experts also said that maybe Bernie Sanders could have had more chances now against Donald Trump. In any case, of course, if the Republicans take over the White House, they also retain the control of the Senate and also the House, and by default also the Supreme Court, which makes it probably the most radical right-wing government in American history. So this is definitely something which most of the people did not expect, and of course we have to see how this will affect the Middle East region.
Yes, actually that was going to be my next question. How do you think Donald Trump being the the 45th U.S. president will affect the U.S. policies in the Middle East and towards the Arab region in general?
Well, first of all, Donald Trump said that the first thing he will do if he will be in office, that he would cancel the agreement with Iran over the nuclear program. So this is definitely going to be a very unique development in the relationship between the United States and Iran on one hand, and the United States and the Middle East on the other hand. Secondly, already during the past few months, when Donald Trump had some very radical and maybe even racist comments regarding the Middle East, the Hispanic communities, and all the other communities as well, already lots of very renowned businessmen from the Middle East and the Gulf region said they will pull back their investments from the United States, and they will even cancel I mean, we know that Donald Trump, his company has lots of investments in the Middle East,
Right.
and those partners said that they will stop the partnership with Donald Trump because of that. So it is definitely going to be a very interesting development. Most of the people, not only in the United States, but also in the Middle East and in Europe, were expecting Hillary Clinton to win. And this is definitely going to change all the expectations and all the I mean, you know, it was you could say that during the past couple of years and during the Obama terms, everything was quite settled, and everything was more or less, you knew in which direction it was going. But now with Donald Trump in office, it's going to
very
be
unpredictable.
It's going to be unpredictable.
Right. How influential are the different segments and minorities living in the United States on the presidential elections, like the Latino or Hispanics and the Arabs, of course?
Well, actually, you will be surprised, because I personally thought they would be much more influential than they actually turn out to be. Because, for example, if I'm not mistaken, Michigan went to Donald Trump, and we know that in Michigan there's a huge Arab community living there. So, and also the Hispanic and the Latino and the Afro-American communities, I was expecting them to be much more influential. But you don't know actually what happened. Maybe some of them were intimidated and did not go to vote, for example, because we know that lots of the Trump supporters were very aggressive in campaigning for Donald Trump. So maybe this hindered some of those people to go to the elections and vote, and this in return, of course, resulted in Donald Trump leading the presidential election.
Right, and despite being a minority, also the Jews influential when it comes to the presidential elections. Why is that, and how do you see that?
Well, I think the Jewish community has always been very influential in the United States. If I'm not mistaken, the daughter of Hillary Clinton is married to a Jew businessman, if I'm not mistaken, and also I think one of the sons or daughters of Donald Trump himself also is married to one of the leading businessmen in the Jewish community in the United States. So definitely the Jewish lobby is extremely powerful in the United States. And I'm sure that they had also probably an influence in supporting Donald Trump, especially because Israel and the Jewish communities were not really happy with the relationship between the United States and Israel on one hand, and the relationship between Obama and Netanyahu on the other hand. Because Netanyahu actually, he made lots of enemies during the past couple of years. Obama was not a big friend of him. Nicolas Sarkozy was also not a very big friend of him, and he even called him once a big liar, and that he hated talking with him. And he forgot that there was a mic going on, so he was talking to President Obama and telling him about Netanyahu, that he's a big liar and he doesn't like him. So of course this tension the relationship between the United States and Israel even more, and probably this was one of the main reasons why the Jewish lobby supported the Republican candidate more than the Democratic candidate.
Right. What about his statements regarding the minorities?
Well, I'm really surprised actually that after saying such racist and radical and targeting and really targeting women a lot in his comments, that still some women, lots of women actually in the United States, were still voting for him, you know, and very proud changing their Facebook profile pictures, for example, in Trump girl or whatever. So I was really surprised. I mean, but actually this shows, just let me continue this point. This shows how tense the relationship between the different communities in the United States is currently and I think this shows that they really have some problems inside the American society, and I think it will take at least a couple of years.
Right.
To
just
develop
allow me,
that.
sir, to go to our correspondent Linda Abdelatif at the American Embassy in Cairo. Linda, hello, Linda.
Well, good morning, Naveen.
Good morning. Linda, do you have
Well,
more
Naveen,
updates,
on the sidelines of the event, I'm being joined right now by the American ambassador to Egypt, His Excellency Ambassador Stephen Beecroft. Your Excellency, thank you so much for joining us today on Nile TV International.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Sir, we would like you first to give an insight on how the polling results have been going so far.
Well, it's been an exciting night. We see that every vote counts in an close election, and we're still waiting for the results. And so it's been an exciting night, but a very long night. I look forward to seeing the outcome soon, and who's ever elected president, we will do our best to serve them faithfully, just as we've done the past president and presidents before that. We as diplomats have a nonpartisan commitment to serve whoever is elected as president of the United States, and we'll continue to do that. And I think we'll see the strongest possible relationship with Egypt.
And how did you see the participation in the voting of the U.S. citizens in Cairo and also the U.S. citizens, of course, residing in the U.S.?
Well, in Cairo, we don't actually do voting at the embassy. People request an absentee ballot. They receive an absentee ballot. They then fill it out and send it in through the mail. And we help with that at the embassy. But there's been a lot of interest in this election. It's been a very hard-fought, close, competitive election. And that tends to bring out a lot of people that are interested in voting. So we've seen a high level of voting from Cairo by American citizens.
Now, sir, how would you describe the current Egyptian-American relations, and what are your expectations regarding this relation in case any of the candidates win?
Well, the United States and Egypt have a historical relationship. This relationship has been strong over the years. I expect that it will continue to be a very strong, productive relationship. I know a new administration is going to want to engage with Egypt. They're going to want to make the relationship as strong as it possibly can be, as effective as it can be in countering terrorism and addressing other concerns that are in the region and around the world. So I look forward to a good, strong, productive partnership as we've had before. And one sign of that, as I've been pointing out to people, is that since 1978, the United States has invested, as a partner with Egypt, over $70 billion of assistance in Egypt because it recognized the important role that Egypt has to play in the region. That recognition is going to continue, and we'll see very quickly engagement and an effort to make the relationship as productive, strong as possible.
And as a U.S. citizen, what changes are you expecting to see after the final result?
Well, after you get a new president, they put together their team during the transition period, and then on January 20th they take office at noon, and very quickly try to implement their vision, the vision that they've shared with the public, that they've used during the campaign to attract voters and to win the election. So we'll see changes either way. We'll see changes domestically in the United States. We'll see changes foreign policy. I don't expect that you'll see immediate radical departures. People will build on what's there, but then they'll put their own personal stamp on things, their administration stamp on things, and take policy in different directions.
Your Excellency, thank you so much for joining us today on Nile TV International.
No, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Well, Naveen, this was our interview with the U.S. Ambassador to Egypt, His Excellency Ambassador Stephen Beecroft.
Linda Abdelatif.
Thank you, sir.
very
Thank
much.
you so much. Thank you.
Right. And back to you, sir, and back to our discussion. How do you see the role of the American women in the voting process in the U.S. presidential election?
Well, I think they didn't really have such a huge impact, actually, because actually if they had such a huge impact, then probably Hillary Clinton would have won. But as you mentioned earlier, with Donald Trump almost certainly the next president, because he only needs a few more electoral votes, and it's pretty obvious that Hillary Clinton will not be able to catch up with him anymore. I think that we have some exciting times awaiting us, actually. Not only the United States, I think they will. It reminds me of the shock we had in Egypt here when Mohamed Morsi was elected the president, and lots of people were in deep shock. And I think this is also happening in the United States right now. I read lots of comments of my friends living there, both American or expats living there, and they're all really in deep shock, and they really didn't expect it to happen this way. And it is very obvious that lots of people who were pretending to vote for Hillary Clinton actually at the end did not vote for Hillary Clinton and went for Donald Trump. So I think there will be some turbulent years coming up for the United States of America, and not only for the United States, probably also for the rest of the world, because we know the influence of the United States in so many parts of the world.
Right. Talking about the electoral process, how would you evaluate the process of campaign by the two candidates?
Actually, just a couple of days ago, I saw a very interesting reportage on ZDF, the German TV channel, and it really shows that that money rules, and there's lots of so-called black money sources supporting the different parties. You can have NGOs and some companies establish, for example, the Koch Imperium, for example, they establish NGOs, they finance NGOs in order to, up to 40, 50 different NGOs in order to support one or the other candidate. And I think money plays a very important role in the election progress in the United States. I think this has to change. I think lots of Americans will also now start to criticize the system they have in the United States, because actually having those electoral votes means you either win all the votes or you lose all the votes. I think with exception of only just one state, I think Utah it is, or something like this. Yeah. But this is definitely not, apparently it's not a very effective way in really showing what the people want. And I can see that maybe we'll see even some changes in the election process during the next couple of years in the United States, because I think most of the Americans are really shocked by this results themselves. Yes.
And in relation, in line with what you've just mentioned, sir, some states have a very strong impact on the results of the U.S. presidential elections, like Florida, for example. Why is that?
Yes, we have some so-called key states, and we have some swing states, and of course those swing states are not really predictable, because they change from Republican to Democrats, and they have lots of electoral votes, for example. California, for example, has 55 votes, so it's one of the most decisive states in the presidential elections.
And Clinton, I think, won the 55.
Yes, she won
that was announced a while ago.
Exactly. She won the 55 electoral votes of California, but nevertheless, there are 5 or 6 states.
The swing states.
No, not only the swing states, the key states, who only those 5, 6 states already have 35% of the electoral votes. So this shows you that how important those 6 states are, and I think this is also, like I just mentioned, I think this is not maybe the most ideal solution for electing a president for one of the most important, if not the most important, superpower in the world currently. So hopefully they will do some changes very soon about that. Before we end our session today, I just want to go back to something local which happened yesterday in Egypt. Yesterday in Egypt, we talked about the road safety issue a lot, and I know it's definitely not the most important topic right now, but I would like to send my condolences to the people who died yesterday in the crash between the school bus and the truck, which happened on the Suez Road yesterday. We have 4 fatalities and one 6-year-old girl. Yes, so my condolences to the victims, to the family of the victims, and I hope that the Egyptian government, despite all the trouble we have in Egypt right now and all the challenges we have with the dollar. Oh, by the way, actually, the dollar crisis, this could be a good point, because I think this will weaken. This result has already weakened the dollar in many markets. So probably this will weaken the dollar
Right.
here as well.
In line with what you're just saying, sir, how do you expect the U.S. policies toward Egypt and the Middle East be in case of Donald Trump winning or in case of Hillary?
Well, we can neglect Hillary Clinton right now because, like I said, as you mentioned earlier, it's almost certain that Donald Trump is the new president. So even if the official result is not out yet, but he is, and I think he will work very closely with Egypt because he knows that, and not only him he knows, but his advisors know that Egypt is very important for him for the peace process in the region.
Right, Mr. Mohamed Sheta, media expert, many thanks for your insights.
Thank you very much for having me.
And dear viewers, now we go for a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and with my guest, Mr. Mohamed Sheta, media expert. Back to you, sir. How do you see the results of the U.S. presidential elections just announced?
Like I said, I mean, this is a very surprising development in the elections. Nobody actually, I think,
expected.
I mean, most of the people, maybe lots of people in the United States expected something like this, but I think the majority really all over the world did not expect such a, for Trump, I would call it a landslide victory, actually.
Definitely.
Because
all speculations and all analysts have predicted Clinton to be the winner candidate.
Not only that, even the conservative American media, like for example the New York Times and all the other major newspaper and TV channels, they were very supportive for Hillary Clinton, and they were attacking Donald Trump in a very aggressive way, and still he was able to make it. I mean,
and especially for his statements about minorities.
Yes.
That was
not only that. Actually, at the end of the elections, he even started. He was accusing that the elections will be rigged, and he was saying that the media was manipulating the American public, and he was criticizing the media as well as his opponents as well. So, and despite all that, he was able to lead the election. So I think this is really something unexpected.
Right, and after, of course, the results of the elections, how do you expect the U.S. policies to be towards the Middle East and Egypt in specific?
Well, one of the funny things which Donald Trump said, that he said that he wants to build a wall around Syria, and this wall should be financed by the Middle East and the Gulf countries who have lots of money to do this. Which is actually very close to what he said about the wall he wanted to build up between Mexico and the United States, and he said that Mexico should pay for it. So he probably, I mean, he's very inexperienced. I mean, it's a funny thing in itself that someone like Donald Trump, who has no political experience whatsoever, became president of the world superpower, America, in less than 2 years. I mean, this is something.
But despite all this, and despite his lack of political experience, and on the other side, with the long-term political experience of Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump won the elections. How do you see this? How do you justify this?
It's very easy, actually. I think lots of the Americans were fed up with what Hillary Clinton, with what Bill Clinton did during his 2 terms, and what Obama did during his 2 terms, and of course what Hillary Clinton did as a secretary, as a Secretary of State of the United States during her time as well. So I think people being so angry about the Democratic candidates over the past couple of years, I think this helped very much in creating this protest voting, more or less, for Trump and against Hillary Clinton. And I think this is something which probably Bernie Sanders would have been able to avoid, because Hillary Clinton is not very well liked among lots of people in the United States, and I think that Bernie Sanders, if he would have been the final the Democratic candidate for the U.S. Presidential election, I think that he would have had better chances than Hillary Clinton against Trump.
How does the U.S. elections work? I mean, the whole process, the campaigning and everything.
Well, like I said, it's a matter of donations. It's actually based on donations, more or less. And I think this is a very tricky thing, because actually this means that the more money you have, that the more chances you have in becoming the next the president of the United States of America. And it's not only when it comes to the presidential elections, but it also comes to other elections as well, to the governor's elections, for example. And I think there is a huge network of NGOs, and which is not really very transparent, actually. And like I said, there was lots of TV channels in Germany and in the United Kingdom. They did lots of TV features about how this election process actually runs, and how much money is donated by lots of companies in order to support their candidate. And like I said, there are lots of well-known businessmen and companies, for example, like the brothers Kochs, for example, in the United States, who had lots of influence in getting Donald Trump so much ahead of Hillary Clinton until this stage, and I think this really needs a new restructuring in the United States, and I think this will definitely happen, because I'm sure there will be lots of discussions during the next year how this could have happened in the United States.
And are there any similar electoral systems around the world?
I don't think so. No, actually, I couldn't think of any elections who are so much influenced by the donations and the I mean, you can actually call them sponsors, actually, if you want to, and the donors on such rallying. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this U.S. election, or the campaigns of the two candidates, I think they were, I heard the number of $3 billion or something like that. This is a huge amount of money, actually. And I don't think that any country in the world is spending so much money when it comes to electing their next president, or their next prime minister, or chancellor, or whatever.
Right, and despite most of the speculations and predictions went to Clinton winning, another concept they used to say that Trump would win with a knockout. How do you see this?
No, actually, it didn't really happen with a knockout. I mean, some swing states like Florida, Ohio, North Carolina actually voted for him. And lots of experts did not expect that, actually. And I think those were some of the so-called key swing states, which actually definitely helped pushing the number of electoral votes towards the 270. So I think it was definitely a very unexpected move. It shows you how unpredictable. I mean, like I said earlier, this reminds me very much of the elections we had in Egypt recently, when the Muslim Brotherhood actually won the election, and this was also
in 2012.
Yes, and this was also not expected by anybody. It was a real shock, and I think the problem which started afterwards, that there was a huge gap even inside the small families themselves, not only inside the whole Egyptian society, which will probably also happen, and it started to happen already in the United States, as I could see from the status on Facebook from some of my friends, and I think it will also affect how the society works between each other, because for example here in Egypt, I think the gap is still there. People became more aware about how the country should run, and how important it is to vote, and how important it is to support the candidate. And I think this is also going to happen in the United States during the next couple of months as well.
Right, Mr. Mohamed Sheta, media expert, many thanks for your insights.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Dear viewers, now we go